Hello, Facebook family. Last week we had some complications about trying to get on the internet, so we're here tonight. Thank God for new companies and bringing better internet to the Brinson household.
Or else we would be off again tonight.
Yes, we would.
Because it's still not working.
So we just want to say welcome back to Marriage Mondays, and we're happy to be here. As people start to come on, we just want to thank you for joining us on this wonderful Monday night.
What are we doing?
Turn the light back on, see if it helps.
Okay. Is that good?
Mm-hmm. All right. Got Brother Charles Brown on tonight. And
Miss Renisha Inslee.
Miss Renisha Inslee, yes. Thank y'all for joining us. Also.
Share while you talking.
And we just want to think about this season, and we just want to think about the money situation that happened during this time of the year, and just be conscious about your spending, and be honest with your partner, and y'all get together and talk about how you're going to spend. That's the reason for the two broadcasts these last 2 weeks that we've been on. So we're still talking about money matters in marriage. Tonight we're going to go into why couples tend to argue about money, and give you some simple things you can do to avoid those arguments and keep your marriage in a place where money can't control it if you don't let it. So with that said, we just want to welcome you all, and just continue to support this broadcast, and we just want to go into thanking our bishop and our first lady for giving us this opportunity to come to you on Monday nights and share with you the information that we have and what the Lord has given us to share with you. So we just want to thank you for that.
Yeah, we do. Our goal is just to encourage you and to give you some tools to help you in your endeavor to constantly make your marriage strong. It's a work that's it's a fight worth fighting for. Your marriage is worth fighting for, and we just want to give you ideas for ways you can continue to work on strengthening your marriage, and want to give you resources and encouragement. So that's our purpose. That's our goal. We want to reach as many couples as we can. So take the time to share it, which is what I'm trying to do while I'm talking now, and encourage other people, couples who just to chime in on Mondays and just to gain whatever it is that they can find valuable from our the bit of information that we share.
All right. With that said, we're going to go on into the topic tonight, and let's talk about some scriptures that are in the Bible that talk about money and wealth gaining and how you should have the attitude towards your money. The first verse we're going to talk about tonight it comes from 1 Timothy 6:10. For the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. That is straight out of your Bible. But I think when it says the love of money, that means you put money first before anything else. When you say you love money, it's not that you should love money, but you should put God before the money. You got anything you want to say about that scripture?
No, I'm still trying to get myself together.
All right. Another scripture we're going to talk about it comes from Hebrew 13:5. It says, keep your life free from the love of money and be content with what you have. Now, we're talking about in our sermons right now of being a people of means. And being a people of means, it means that you use your gifts and talents to acquire the wealth that you need to sustain your life, or to just gain wealth so you can store up for your children's children. It doesn't mean you go out there and do any and all thing to gain money, to sell kind of products that shouldn't be sold, and do all kind of evil things to make your purse big. So don't fall in love with the money, because that can lead you into doing things that you wouldn't normally do to gain money. Another scripture comes from Matthew 6:24. No one can serve two masters, for either he will hate one and love the other, or he will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and money. That basically sums up what I just said. There is no way you can serve God and money. You could put God before the money and let God give you the things that you need to acquire the wealth. So that's the path I think you should follow.
That's pretty much what we've been learning too. Most recently is that God desires for us to have wealth, but there's a way to go about doing that, and connecting with God, having direction from God. It brings God, it establishes his covenant with you, to be quite honest. So he does expect, but we need to get information and direction from God so that he can show us the path that we should take to acquire wealth, and to acquire finances. So it's not all about the stuff. It's not all about so many reasons that people go after money, which is why the love of money is so dangerous. It just really is a gateway for all manner of evil. But when we do things God's way, it's amazing the blessing that comes with the wealth and the blessing that comes with the finances when we put God first, when we love God and follow God and not love the money. So this lesson is going to be about how to make sure that your marriage, the financial situation in your marriage is not a hindrance to your marriage relationship. Part of the lesson, I don't know if you want me to.
No, I'm going to you.
Okay, all right. Well, I'll follow your lead.
All right. A couple more scriptures before we really get into the lesson. Proverbs 13:11. Wealth gained hastily will dwindle, but whoever grabs little by little will increase it. If you're in a situation and you get a whole lot of money real quick, you might need to evaluate how you're acquiring that money, and if it's something that you're not sure about, or you know it's when you weigh it against your values and what you've been learning from the Lord, maybe you should turn away from that, because money gained hastily can be lost quickly and can cause you some financial situation and maybe even jail time if it's done the wrong way. So, use your God-given talent to gain the money that you need or means that you need to be successful in life. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, God gives us wisdom for how to gain wealth. So anything that's too good to be true probably is. But when God gives you ideas and gives you and leads you, when you let God direct your path, it may be the money may come quickly. It may come without a lot of effort, but it's all about whether or not you're actually doing what God has set forth for you to do, versus if you're doing something that's a scheme or something illegal, and that doesn't give God glory. So I don't think it's necessarily just that it comes, fast or slow, but certainly the manner, the steps you take, does it give God glory? Is it a part of his plan that he's shown you?
And I like the comment Brother Charles Brown left from there. It says, "Get your stuff without adding sorrow." And to me that means that if you're getting your stuff from God, then you will be happy with getting what you get, and you won't have to worry about jail time or anything that may come back to take that wealth back from you. All right. So those are some scriptures we want to talk about tonight. So when we're dealing with money, a lot of issues come up with money between the couples. And why do couples argue about money? That's one of our main things tonight. Why do couples argue about money? And there are several things we're going to discuss tonight to talk about, and the ones that we do not talk about, why you and your spouse may argue about money, leave that in the comment area, and possibly how you got through it. So why do couples argue about money? You want to go?
Where?
Right.
Those are negative effects.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know where you're going with that.
Okay. So why do you think couples argue about money?
I think couples argue about money because people are emotionally attached to money.
Mm-hmm.
And very often, I think always, couples come into the relationship with ideas about money and habits about money. And if those ideas and habits don't match up, then you're going to have a conflict. I think it's the same as lots of other areas in marriage, in that people come in with preconceived ideas and notions and expectations. And if those things are not clarified during the dating process, then you're going to have a big collision.
Right.
Or either somebody's going to some patterns are going to be set, is what I can say. Patterns are going to be set that are not healthy for the marriage if intimacy is not already a part of that couple's relationship.
Right.
So that's why I think it's such a big issue. It's because there's so much of an emotional attachment, and if we don't take time to get on the same page, it's going to be a problem.
All right. Another reason why couples have a tendency to argue about money is the way that they communicate. And what do you mean by that, Coach? If you got somebody in the relationship that's passive and they don't tend to explain themselves or get their ideas out in the way that money is being spent, that person can feel run over, and like what they say don't matter, and that can cause some resentment. So if you're a person that communicates in a passive way, you may have issues with somebody until that you done had enough of it, and then it comes out the wrong way. But you got to be in a position to talk about how the money is being spent. Also, in the communication aspect of money, you got your passive aggressive person, meaning, okay, you say how you know how you want to spend the money. I know how I want to spend the money. So when we talk about this, I may agree with you, but I'm still going to do it my way. That's very passive aggressive.
And that brings on infidelity too, financial infidelity, which is a term that's new to me. Just because I've only heard it spoken about here recently in the last probably couple of months, that term financial infidelity, but people have been doing it for years.
Yep.
And it's keeping secrets from each other concerning money, or having behaviors with money that your spouse is not aware of. That's what you're doing in secret. That's the term for that, is financial infidelity.
And it's another term that I learned through some of the reading that I've done. It's called revenge spending. That's another passive aggressive person. How a person communicates passive aggressively is revenge spending. Okay, you went and bought that purse, I'm going to buy this boat.
Oh, yeah.
You went and bought, those shoes, I'm going to buy this dress. That's called revenge spending. And you may not have the money to do that, or you hadn't communicated effectively about how you're going to spend your money. So, financial infidelity and revenge spending are both one of those passive-aggressive ways that people communicate about money.
Well, it's interesting because money is not just a mirror, but it amplifies people's behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you have a person who tends to behave with revenge towards their spouse anyway, then that is a person that would be more likely to have that behavior of revenge spending, or that infidelity with money as well. It's sort of the same thing. If you have that tendency to do things privately behind your spouse's back, that may show up in money as well as in other areas, right. That pattern of behavior. So it's important to identify those behaviors in yourself and within your relationship, and deal with it.
Yep.
That's the key, is you want to be able to identify these things and also deal with it, correct the behavior, come up with a different plan or different path. Latasha Hyler-Edwards also made a statement. She said one may have the faith to do what is necessary with money and the other doesn't. No plan. And that's a very important point, particularly for couples within the kingdom of God. It is important to be on the same page. Some people tithe and some people don't. And when you become a couple, you need to be on the same page, whereas that is concerned. And that's the area that that is very emotionally charged among couples. People who are consistent tithers seem to be very committed to that. There's emotion tied to it. There's faith tied to it. And so you need to be on the same page. So if you have a spouse who doesn't want to tithe or who doesn't understand why you're tithing, it's so critical to make sure that the two of you are on the same page so that one person doesn't feel that they have to compromise or sacrifice their faith for how they manage their finances in order to appease their spouse.
Right.
That's a really huge issue.
Right. And still talking about communication skills when you're talking about money and why it causes arguments. You got a true aggressive communicator. This is the person that thinks, they are the last word in how the money is being spent.
It's controlling.
It's very controlling. And, both people are in the marriage together. Whether both people are working, there still should be a equal say-so in how the money spent. Mm-hmm. Yes. Still should. There's nothing wrong with a man that's working and got a stay-at-home mom, or a woman that's working and got a stay-at-home dad. The money should still be a discussion about how it's being spent.
Agreement.
Yes. And I'll talk about the last one when we get ready to talk about steps to stop fighting over money. So another thing that and my wife has mentioned this several times, is being secretive about your money. Why are you keeping secrets about how you're spending the money in the house? What are you doing with the money? So when you're doing that comes to that term, financial infidelity, because you're not being upfront with how you're spending the money that's coming into the household.
Yeah, money should be a tool that actually helps you reach your goals as a couple. It's important for you to view money as a tool within your marriage, not as something to fight over or something to divide or to define. Very often people use money to try to define themselves or their status, or we just give too much credit to it, too much clout to finances. Mm-hmm. And that's where we go back to the love of money being the root of all evil, and recognizing that the love of money really can tear your family apart. I mean, it can be that one thing that can truly put a wedge in your relationship and absolutely have the two separated. It's that issue of money.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So we've talked about a couple of things that can cause arguments in your marriage and possibly cause divorce if it goes too far without getting some help between the two. So let's get into what you can do to prevent the money matters making a mess of your marriage. So one thing that we've researched is recognize and appreciate your differences. Me and my wife just had a talk about where you get your spending habits from. How do you know? Why do you spend the money the way you spend it? Mm-hmm. Or why you think about money the way you think about it?
Or not spend it,
mm-hmm.
as the case may be.
So we've had that discussion, and we come up with, she asked me that question, and we kind of understand why we spend money the way we do. And I understand why she spend money the way she do, and I hope she got some understanding about the way I think about spending money. In our discussion, you got a little understanding, didn't you?
Mm-hmm. I think it's interesting that you say you think about spending money.
Yes, I do. And my wife has a tendency to call me cheap because I think if you can find something for a better price and good quality, I think that's where the money should go. And it takes a little research to do that. So that's just me. So what is your idea? I love having these discussions on Facebook.
My idea about what?
About how you spend your money.
I mean, I feel like money is a tool.
Mm-hmm.
It's a tool to get the things that I want.
So where did you get your spending habits from?
From my parents.
Okay.
I'm sure. They do have very different spending patterns. But I definitely I think I'm a balance of the two. I'm probably more like my dad when I think about it, though, as far as spending. He don't mind spending money to take care of the things that's needful. My mother is definitely a bigger spender than he is. She's a shopper. I'm not so much of a shopper, but it's necessary to have the finances to get the things that I want to get. I don't really like to be without whatever it is that is needed. I'm not a big spender, but I don't believe in being uncomfortable if I have the money to get what I need. I'm not going to suffer through, or not necessarily suffer, but be uncomfortable just for the sake of saving money.
Right.
And that's where we differ, is that, you don't mind, compromising.
I do not.
What you want, to not spend. But I don't mind spending to get whatever is needed.
Well, I know for a fact I got my spending habits from the two most important men in my life. That's my dad, Dennis, and my uncle and father figure, J.C. Polk. Both of them believe that you should not spend money until you've investigated all aspects of that spending, and then if it needs to be spent, you go ahead and do what you need to do. So that's where I get my spending habits from. And so we're definitely we're somewhat alike, but we different in spending money. But we do agree how the money is being spent in the household, though.
Yeah.
We just come to that adjustment in our house. That's how we do it. All right. Have a shared bank account when you're mixing money. You have that shared bank account, so there is no misunderstanding about where that money is going. But you have a shared bank account, and if you want a separate bank account for personal money, you can do that also. But have a shared bank account and make sure. Yeah.
If it's agreeable.
Okay.
Because some people are very firm in their beliefs about whether or not to share, a couple should share a bank account or not. And so, it depends on what's agreeable between the two of you. You have to make that decision together. Sometimes it's the issue of trust. Sometimes it's the issue of convenience. But you really have to figure out what works best, within your household. I do think the benefit of having a joint bank account is for transparency. Transparency and accountability.
Out of that particular account, I'm just saying do like one account where y'all agree where that particular money is going to go, and designate and earmark that money for a particular purpose, and it helps y'all to agree upon the small things that come up in the household. It's a practice, just like in your marriage vows, the two becomes one. That's one of those things that you can that's a practice you can share by mixing your money.
Yeah.
So do what's comfortable for you and your family. Also, schedule a financial meeting when you're talking about money. Don't let it be one of those things that's on your mind all week about, okay, when am I going to bring this up to her about talking about this bill or this money that we got coming in, or I need to mention this to her. Set a date to talk about your finances. It's really just that simple. You got things?
No, I just agree with that it is critical to set aside time. And we talk about that a lot, on these Marriage Monday events. It's the importance of setting meetings and to plan. And it's certainly one of the most important meetings you can have is to schedule a budget meeting, or just to make sure that you are on the same page and moving in the same direction as far as the money for the household goes.
All right. Another thing we came across is avoid exaggerations, like you always, or you
never.
You never. Those words should not really be in your vocabulary. And the reason I say that, because no one does something all the time. No one. I guess that's the best way to explain it.
Yeah, it is. It's just if you're having a discussion or about money, whether it's a fight or a sensible discussion about money, it helps to keep the conversation from going way left when you take the time to be mindful of your choice of words. And that kind of goes back to fighting fair. I think we've talked about that a little bit.
Yeah.
from time to time, it said it is important to fight fair. There are rules for how to have an argument or how to have a discussion, a heated discussion within your marriage. And the same is true when you're talking about money. Avoid using those terms of you always or you never. That's not really helpful. Mm-mm. Yeah, we can talk about what patterns of behavior are, and we can talk about what might work better, and discuss options that we can both agree to. You've got two adults. It's not fair for one person to control another with money, nor is it a proper way to interact within your marriage to have one control the other with money. If there are strengths and weaknesses there, then let's talk about strengths and weaknesses. If you've got one that tends to spend, or someone who prioritizes spending over paying bills, well, let's talk about it. Let's talk about how we can resolve this instead of placing blame or focusing on the emotional side of that discussion. Let's take some time and figure out what are some systems we can put in place for accountability, some systems we can put in place for getting things done on behalf of the family. And maybe one person is better for getting bills paid than the other. And so then that might be something that's an area we need to decide who's doing what.
Right.
I mean, that was an issue for us because I just didn't want to do it. It just felt like one more thing to do.
And the thing about it is, I think we talked about this the last time too. She didn't want to do it, and I just wanted to do it my way. And that didn't really work for us either. Mm-mm. So now we're in a position now where we agree about how we pay the bills, and it's a good place right now for us.
Yeah. Bishop Bush mentioned that in having those financial discussions to talk about the problems, plans, and practices in a scheduled format. And that's good advice.
It is.
Remember those 3 P's when you're having that discussion to sort out your finances. Is you want to be structured and scheduled in dealing with the problem, pointing out the problems, the plans, your practices for making it work, and finally your projections. Projections being where you're going, how you setting those financial goals, which are very important.
It is.
I found setting financial goals are motivating, and then working on that together builds the relationship as well.
And there's another thing we're going to talk about to avoid arguments in your marriage and finances is don't acquire debt without your partner's input.
Right.
Learn how to pay your debts together, and don't acquire debt that your partner doesn't know about.
Pay them together and acquire them together.
I'm gonna say this to the people that are not married yet, and you're working on it. Whatever debt you have, put that on the table before y'all get married.
Right.
So you'll understand how to attack those debts, and maybe you can come up with a plan to attack them together as you grow as a couple. We were looking at a show on YouTube. You remember the people that talked about that? It was on the Cav and his wife show. Kevin and his wife. They had a couple
what
there.
You're thinking though.
They were talking about how the guy said he had debt, and she was talking about how she did everything in her life so she didn't have debt later on. Oh. She paid her way through school, and she was doing everything while she was in school not to have debt. So when she graduated debt free. Him, on the other hand, grew up in a poor household, and he got into the Army, and he started getting a check. So he wanted everything he could possibly get now that he had the means to get it. But all he was doing was acquiring debt. So that was one of the things that almost caused them not to get married. But they sat down and came up with a plan. They had a problem. Mm-hmm. They came up with a plan, and they executed it.
I think he was trying to hide it too. He was ashamed to tell her about the debt that he had, and so it took some humbling on his end, and being honest with her to say, because he saw how hard she was working to get rid of debt, yet he had a tremendous amount of debt on his side of things, and he was embarrassed and didn't want to bring it to the forefront. So he started trying to work it off himself, and it was just too much. Mm-hmm. And she was able to make a decision that they would work on it together once they were married. And that's what they did, is they hustled. They found, I think they started like refurbishing furniture and reselling it. I mean, they were doing everything within their power to make extra money, and everything was targeted towards that purpose. And then once they had all that taken care of, they moved on to the next thing, which was to pay for, knock their house out.
Right.
But the point of it is that they were working together. They were able to put things out on the table, be open and honest, and then attack it together. And it's so much better to kind of go up that mountain or to conquer that mountain when you're doing it together, versus you trying to do it on your own, in private, in the dark, pretending that things are better than they are.
Right. And see, the last 2 points basically were summed up in what we just talked about. Don't be afraid to compromise, because when you compromise and y'all come up with something together, it can solve the problem. And always keep the end in mind. Whatever you're setting a financial goal for and you're working towards it, keep that end in mind. Even when things don't quite go right, things get a little sketchy and might be a couple of setbacks, keep the end in mind. That's the thing about setting long and short-term goals. There has to be an end in mind. Set little short-term goals, and hopefully you can reach your long-term goal and be consistent.
And it's important to keep those, that end result, that goal you're working towards, in front of you. Revisit it frequently. Have it, even having it somewhere in the house where you both can see it constantly or see it frequently, so that you are reminded, and so that helps to keep you on task. And really, that's good for any goal that you set for yourself, individually as well as for a couple. You want to keep the end result in front of you so that you stay motivated to keep moving towards that goal.
Right. With that said,
is that it?
Yeah, that's it.
Well, I'll add that it's really important to seek out resources. Anytime you're learning or making moves in a better direction, it is critical to seek out new information. In order to get a different result, you need new information, to acquire new information as you're moving in a new direction, so that you don't automatically default to what has come naturally to you or to what you've learned previously. So books, it's amazing what's out there on YouTube, just learning from other people, conversations with people around you that are where you're trying to get. Sometimes people are very kind in sharing information and giving information. Some people are not, but you just benefit from those people that are willing to help you grow and to share with you. And so I think it's really critical for you to seek out information from whatever resources are within your reach, so that you can learn more about where you're trying to go to reach your goal, and to have those discussions. Keep in mind that your relationship is always going to be customized to suit the two of you. You're the only two of you in this relationship, so your marriage doesn't have to look identical to someone else's.
Right.
And so you customize it with the guidance of the Holy Spirit and the Word of God, so that your marriage reflects peace and it reflects God's glory.
Okay. All right, very well. With those closing comments, we just want to thank y'all again tonight for coming in with us on Marriage Monday, so we can give you some information about how to better gauge your marriage, improve your marriage, and basically improve your relationship if you're not married right now. Other things going on at Crown Kingdom Cultural Center is, of course, on Monday nights we come to you at 7 o'clock. Then there's a Bible study on Tuesday with the bishop, either be at noon or in the evening at 7. Also on Wednesday, there's a man's mentoring group that has been started and has been going on probably for about a month now. Then we come back on Thursday and have the master class to actually discuss the Bible study from the previous Tuesday night. And this weekend at the church, we are having a Polar Express drive-in movie. at the church. And if you're within the sound of my voice, we ask that you come over and grace us with your presence. And then we're back on Sunday with our regular sermon with Bishop starting at 10 o'clock. And then after the service, there's another master class to talk about the sermon. So with that said, Crown is busy. Just join in and figure out where you fit in and come and join us and listen to all the stuff that's going on. So with that said, you got anything else?
We just appreciate everybody for joining with us tonight. We had a lot of folks coming in and commenting, and we appreciate that. And as far as I know, we'll be back on this coming Monday next week on the 21st. We may not come on the 28th, which is that Monday after Christmas.
Yeah.
Between Christmas and New Year's, but we'll definitely be on Monday the 21st, so we'll see you all there.
All right. With that said, from the lady and the coach, we love y'all. Good night.
Good night.